High-level contact today between the U.S. and China on tariffs. Eunice Yoon joins us now with more from Beijing. Eunice.
Thanks so much, Melissa. Well, the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen had a virtual call with China's Vice Premier Liu He, and the Chinese described the conversation as constructive. The Treasury Department said that the Secretary laid out the U.S. concerns that the impact of Russia's war on Ukraine was harming the global economy, as well as what the U.S. sees as unfair Chinese trade practices. Now, the Chinese side said that the vice premier brought up U.S. tariffs, sanctions, and what Beijing believes to be a U.S. mistreatment of Chinese companies. Now, the American readout did not include a mention of tariffs, but the expectation is growing that President Biden could potentially announce as early as this week either a reduction or a removal of Trump-era tariffs. Now, people who I spoke to here, suppliers as well as business folks, have said that the impact for them would be potentially be immediate, that they could see a lot of orders, and so they would be very pleased about it. But for President Biden, the choice is really not so clear-cut. Some economists have said that the impact of a tariff rollout, of a rollback of tariffs, might not have as big an impact on overall inflation as one might think. Barclays, for example, estimates a maximum one-time 0.3 percentage point drop. There are also political considerations as well for President Biden that he could potentially look weak on China, especially if China doesn't give anything in return. And so far, at least publicly, it looks as though Beijing isn't so willing to cooperate. The foreign ministry today said that China's position has always been clear. The cancellation of all tariffs on China will benefit both China and the U.S. and the world. So really stressing that China is the one that has been in the right on this issue. Melissa?
At the same time, Eunice, this all comes amid a period of time where it sounds like the administration wants to make sure that its relationship with China is on track, right? We heard reports that President Biden and President Xi will have some sort of video conference call sometime over this summer. So it does seem like there's some, I don't know if you want to go so as far as let's call it an olive branch, but at least an awareness that there needs to be some sort of cooperation here.
Yeah, and I think that there is that feeling on the Chinese side, but maybe out of necessity, because here in China, of course, the economic considerations are there. The Chinese have long been arguing that tariffs needed to be lifted. There is a concern about the impact on Chinese companies, suppliers, and the overall economy. Not the biggest concern. Of course, there are other concerns such as the COVID restrictions. However, this is something that the Chinese have been arguing. That said, the Chinese have often repeated that the deterioration of U.S. and China relations is the sole responsibility of the U.S. and that U.S. policy needs to change, and the Chinese don't have to change. So it's still unclear exactly what is going to be negotiated, but again, all these negotiations are happening behind closed doors. Melissa?